The Galactic Council demanded tribute from Earth. Humanity replied with 3 chilling words. The chamber went silent. Ambassador Vesic Thoron, first speaker of the 9 systems, had delivered ultimatums to 43 species in his 300-year career. He had watched proud civilizations kneel, weep. He had never, not once, heard a reply like the one that had just come from the small, unremarkable blue planet at the edge of the Perseus Arm. 3 words. Spoken calmly, without threat, without anger, by a human diplomat standing alone in a room of 60 alien delegates. Come and see. The council chamber, a vast amphitheater of shifting light and translated whispers, erupted into confusion. Some species didn't understand the phrase at all. Their translator stuttered on the idiom, searching for context that didn't exist. Others understood it perfectly, and that was worse, because buried in those 3 words was something the 9 systems hadn't heard directed at them in over 11,000 years. Defiance. But to understand how humanity arrived at that chamber, and why those 3 words would echo through galactic history for the next century, we have to go back. Not to that day, not even to that year. We have to go back 6 months earlier, to the day the first council ship entered Earth's solar system. 6 months earlier, the vessel appeared without warning near Neptune, a construct so large that early telescope images mistook it for a moon that had drifted out of orbit. It was not a moon. It was the Ashborne Testament flagship of the 9 System Second Fleet, and its arrival triggered the largest coordinated response in human military history. Every nuclear power on Earth went to full alert within 11 minutes. Aboard the Ashborne Testament, Fleet Commander Drasic Yol watched the sensor readings with the mild curiosity of a man observing insects react to a shadow. His species, the Drasaic, had subjugated 17 worlds before humanity had invented the printing press. He expected fear, he expected panic. He expected, within a week, capitulation. What he did not expect was the message that arrived on an open frequency, translated cleanly into Drasaic dialect within 4 hours of first contact. Impossibly fast for a species that, according to Council records, shouldn't have possessed working-faster-than-light communication theory at all. The message was brief. This is Earth, we see you. We are not hostile. We are not afraid. Please state your intentions before you enter orbit. Drasic Yol laughed. A low, rattling sound his crew had learned to fear because it usually preceded violence. They ask us to state intentions, he said. Adorable. He ordered the Ashborne Testament into low orbit and dispatched a landing shuttle to what his sensors identified as the primate species' largest population center, a city called Geneva, chosen because it hosted the greatest concentration of what his intelligence officers called diplomatic infrastructure. He did not know yet that this was deliberate, that humanity had chosen Geneva for exactly this reason, that every human who stepped into that meeting room had been preparing for this exact moment for longer than the Drasaic officer could imagine. But no one aboard the Ashborne Testament expected what happened in that first meeting. The first meeting. The human delegation was small, 5 people, no military uniforms, no visible weapons, no honor guard bristling with hardware the way Drasic had seen on other newly contacted worlds desperate to look strong. At the center sat a woman named Dr. Amara Osei, 61 years old, former UN climate negotiator turned head of Earth's newly formed Unified Contact Authority. She did not stand when Drasic entered. She did not bow. She simply gestured to the empty chair across from her. Commander, she said, in flawless Drasaic, a language humanity had officially never heard spoken until 4 hours earlier. Please sit. Drasic's translator specialist nearly dropped his equipment. Perfect pronunciation. Correct formal register. Even the subtle vocal clicking that denoted respect between equals, a linguistic nuance so subtle that 3 other species in the 9 systems had never managed to replicate it correctly. You speak our tongue, Drasic said, sitting slowly, his composure cracking for the first time. We've had time to prepare. Amara said simply. That single sentence would haunt Drasic Yol for the rest of his career. The meeting proceeded on the surface, like dozens of first contact negotiations across Council history. Drasic explained, with the practiced boredom of a man who had given this speech many times, that the 9 systems offered protective alignment to newly discovered civilizations. In exchange for military protection, technological uplift, and a seat eventually at the council table, the client species would provide tribute, resources, labor allocation, and military conscription quotas during council conflicts. It was, Drasic explained, a generous offer. Most species accepted within days. Amara listened without interrupting. When he finished, she asked only one question. What happens if we decline? Drasic's translator hesitated on the sentence structure. It wasn't a question species usually asked. because species that asked it usually already knew the answer, and asking anyway was itself a kind of quiet suicide. Then, Drassic said, choosing his words with something almost like reluctant respect, the 9 systems reclassify you as an unaligned resource-bearing world, which means any member species may claim your territory and assets without council intervention. You would have no protection, no recourse, no voice. I see, Amara said. She stood. Thank you for your candor, Commander. We'll need time to consult. Time Drassic would later realize was exactly what she wanted, and exactly what humanity had already spent. What the Council didn't know. Here is what Fleet Commander Drassic Yol did not know. Standing in that Geneva conference room, humanity had detected the Ashborne Testament approach 11 days before its arrival, not through primitive radar, but through a network of gravitational wave observatories that Earth's governments had built in secret over the previous decade, ever since the first confirmed detection of an alien megastructure signature near Alpha Centauri in 2041. Earth had known, in broad strokes, that first contact was coming, not the day, not the species, but the shape of it, and humanity had spent that decade preparing not weapons, but leverage. They had reverse-engineered fragments of derelict technology recovered from a crashed Council scout vessel in the Atacama Desert 8 years earlier. A ship whose crew had died from a virus utterly unremarkable to humans but catastrophically lethal to almost every species in the 9 systems registry. A virus humanity hadn't even developed on purpose. It was simply what human immune systems did to certain amino acid structures common in Council biology. They had built, in absolute secrecy, a deep space defense network humanity called Project Palisade. Not a fleet meant to fight the 9 systems, because no one believed that was winnable, but a network of relay stations and dormant weapons platforms scattered through the outer solar system, designed for exactly one purpose: to make conquering Earth expensive. And they had done something no species in the 9 systems had done in over 1,000 years. They had studied the Council itself. The Council had made one very serious miscalculation. And it wasn't military. The Council session, 3 weeks after the Geneva meeting, humanity was formally summoned to present before the full Galactic Council, a rare honor, usually reserved for species who had already agreed in principle to alignment. Drassic Yol had recommended it personally, curious despite himself about the strange, calm species that spoke his language without an accent. The council chamber held delegates from all 9 systems, the reptilian Sorvith, the crystalline Ithquai, the hive-minded Dreth Collective, and dozens more, 60 seats in total, each representing a civilization that had, at some point in its history, knelt. First speaker Vesic Thoran opened the session with the standard tribute demand: resource quotas, labor conscription percentages, military levy requirements, all recited in the flat, administrative tone of a species that had done this so many times the words had lost all weight. The 9 systems offer Earth alignment under Tier 3 provisional status, Vesic concluded. Terms are non-negotiable. Response is required within this session. Do you accept? Every eye in the chamber, organic, mechanical, and otherwise, turned to the single human delegate standing at the chamber floor. Not Amara Ose this time. A younger man, Ambassador Kaito Reyes, formerly a naval intelligence officer, now Earth's chief council liaison. The entire chamber held its breath, though most species there had no lungs. Kaito did not raise his voice. He didn't need to. The chamber's acoustics were designed to carry even a whisper to all 60 delegates. Before we answer, he said, may I ask the council a question? Vesic's antennae flattened, mild irritation, but permitted. Speak. 8 years ago, a council scout vessel crashed in a desert region of our planet called the Atacama. 3 crew members died. Their remains, and portions of the ship, were recovered by our scientists. Kaito paused. We have spent those 8 years studying what killed them. A ripple of movement went through the chamber. The Sorvith delegation's crests rose sharply, a threat display, but Kaito continued, unbothered. We've also spent those 8 years studying your council's expansion history. 43 species aligned in the last 2,000 years. Do you know how many of them retained independent government after alignment, Speaker Thoran? Vesic said nothing. 2, Kaito said. 2 species out of 43 still self-govern in any meaningful sense after joining your council. The other 41 exist now primarily as labor and conscription pools, their population declining, their culture archived rather than lived. We've read the reports your own historians filed. We've read the ones you tried to bury. The chamber, for the first time in living memory of half its members, had gone completely, uncomfortably silent. So, Kaito said, before we answer your demand, I'd like the council to understand exactly what it is proposing to us. Not alignment, erasure, on an installment plan. The Turn Vesic Thoron, 300 years of practiced composure fraying at the edges, leaned forward. You are a Tier 3 civilization with no fleet, no council allies, and a single star system. Whatever data you believe you possess changes nothing about your position. Accept alignment or be reclassified. Those are your only two paths. There's a third, Kaito said quietly. There is not. There is. Kaito gestured, and the chamber's central display, a holographic projection every delegate could see, flickered to life with data Earth's diplomatic mission had transmitted only seconds before, timed precisely. It showed Earth's solar system. Then it showed something else. Dozens of quiet blue markers scattered from the Kuiper belt inward, each one a Project Palisade installation, dormant and undetected by Council sensors for years. We are not offering you a fleet battle, Speaker Thorin. We know we would lose one. What we are offering is the truth that conquering us would cost your 9 systems more than we are worth. Every installation you see has been in position for 6 years. Every one of them has already logged your fleet's approach vectors, weapon signatures, and shield harmonics from the moment you entered our system. None of them has fired. None of them will. Unless someone tries to take what isn't offered freely. That wasn't even the most alarming part of what came next. There's something else, Kaito continued. The virus that killed your scout crew in the Atacama Desert. It wasn't a weapon. It was incidental, a byproduct of terrestrial biology your council never accounted for, because you never bothered studying us closely enough to find it. We have. In 8 years, we've cataloged 41 biological compatibility failures between human microbiology and every major council species physiology. We are not going to weaponize that knowledge. We are simply telling you it exists, because a council that has never once lost a war of conquest should understand that this time, the numbers are different in ways your battle simulations have never modeled. Vesic's mandibles clicked rapidly, the Dracaic equivalent of a held breath. You are bluffing. Come and see, Kaito said, 3 words, and the entire chamber understood, in that moment, that this was not a threat. It was an invitation, and invitations from a species that controlled the terms were far more terrifying than any threat could be. Aftermath, the council recessed for 11 days, the longest deliberation break in 3 centuries. Delegates from all 9 systems debated in private chambers humanity would never see, arguing over precedent, risk, and a question none of them had needed to seriously ask in 1,000 years. What if a species said no, and meant it? When the council reconvened, first speaker Vesic Thoron did something that would define the rest of his career, and Earth's place in galactic history for a century afterward. He did not demand tribute. He offered a treaty, not alignment, not conscription. A trade and non-aggression pact between the 9 systems and what the Council formally recognized, for the first time in its recorded history, as an unaligned sovereign power, a designation that had existed on paper for millennia, but had never once, until that day, been applied to anyone. Fleet Commander Drasic Yol, watching the vote from the Council gallery, turned to his aide and said the only thing that felt true. They never raised a fist, he said. They simply made kneeling more expensive than standing. I don't know whether to fear them or admire them. His aide considered this for a long moment. Perhaps, she said, with humans it's never one or the other. Epilogue. Dr. Amara Osi retired 11 years later, having overseen humanity's first formal trade agreements with 3 council member species. At her farewell address, a young reporter asked her the question everyone had wanted answered since that first session. Had Earth's bluff, the Palisade network, the biological data, all of it, actually been enough to stop a council invasion fleet? Amara smiled, the same calm smile that had unsettled Drasic Yol in a Geneva conference room over a decade earlier. We never found out, she said, and neither did they. That was rather the point. She looked out at the gathered press, and for a moment her gaze seemed to drift somewhere far beyond the room, toward a horizon none of them could see. Strength isn't always about what you can do, she said. Sometimes it's about making certain no one is willing to find out. The room fell silent, the way that council chamber had fallen silent all those years before, because everyone in it understood, at last, exactly what those 3 words had meant. Come and see. Humanity never fired a shot, it never needed to. It simply refused to kneel, and the galaxy for the first time in 11,000 years learned to ask before it took.